Bosses tell you that they're the boss.
And they're bossy.
And leaders invite input and invite feedback and invite other people's ideas and expertise. And the people that work for you are smart.
Yeah.
They know this job better than anyone. But bosses don't see it that way. Bosses think that because they got promoted, they're the smartest ones. But like, not everybody wants to be a boss. Doesn't mean that not everybody could also be one. Yeah. So like there's a big difference between being a boss and being a leader. And that sounds like a boss. No one likes bosses. They're jerks.
Welcome back to True Hospitality. I'm Alan Booth,
I'm Justin Garcidiaz.
I'm Justin Ramirez,
a.k.a. Chef JR.
And I'm Jakup Martini, Poached.
True Hospitality is the More Fun Tomorrow podcast where we explore inward hospitality, humble curiosity, and conflict competence to build capable culture. Today we outline some of the most important elements of effective, hospitable leadership. Anticipating people's needs, establishing clear expectations, and creating a continuous two-way dialogue with your team members. As always, if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to explore on True Hospitality or want to learn more, go to morefuntomorrow.com and click on the Let's Talk button and drop us a line. Please help us spread the word by clicking subscribe and giving us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts, and by sharing True Hospitality with your friends and coworkers. Thanks for listening.
I think it's hospitable to articulate your expectations, especially if you're the manager on the floor or you're the person in charge of the staff. Like, I think you can see a lot of examples of managers failing to adequately articulate what their expectations are, what the expectations of the role, what the expectations of the culture, what the expectations of each individual. And then you get into the situation where you're trying to hold people accountable for meeting expectations that you as the manager did not actually say out loud, and give that person the opportunity to say, yes, I'm interested and able to like meet those expectations and I agree to be a part of this dialogue, or no, I can't meet those expectations and I will go somewhere else. And then you sit down for your review with your employee and you're like, hey, you're not meeting these expectations. And they're like, what expectations? You never told me that I needed to be responsible for that. I think that it's not hospitable to leave people guessing about what they can expect about their jobs, about the day-to-day, about anything. It's like, if you were to walk into a restaurant and sit down at a table and not be given a menu and just have food show up, that ambiguity is jarring. Like, that would be a shitty experience. You wouldn't know what to expect. It's the same thing for staff. Like, if staff doesn't know what to expect, they create their own story. And if they're creating their own story, you have no control over what that is.
Right.
Even expectations without the broader context of feeling secure in your environment, in your position, is jarring. So I think if we think about just what is this idea of hospitality made up of? And it's, first and foremost, recognizing someone, making sure that they feel seen and welcome. And then you can get into a dialogue about, what will happen next and what to expect, and also anticipate their needs if that's the case. I mean, in the classic definition of hospitality, that's a big component. We're always trying to connect with people, make sure they feel seen, and then start a dialogue about what is going to happen next.
Yeah.
And then read the room, read that other person and say, okay, well, this is also what I'm anticipating they might need from me to feel really comfortable and to have a positive experience. I mean, those are kind of the fundamental pieces of what hospitality feels like and what it means to extend. And so in a workplace and, in a kitchen environment or, on even an office environment, first making sure that people feel welcome. That's when they enter their job for the first time. And then also every day,
right? Because
every day is a little different. Everyone's walking in and kind of getting re-centered in the work mode. And you never know where someone's going to be coming in from or what they've got going on. And so just that act of connecting, welcoming, and then, anticipating what that other person might need
Yeah.
as you get into, okay, here's what's going on today. Here's what I need from you. And here's how we're going to do it. I think that's a great way to think about serving others as a chef or a floor manager that's running a shift, or even, a shift lead that's setting up the bar for the evening.
Yeah. Great point.
Helping people understand where they're at,
Yeah.
and giving them feedback along the way is part of hospitality. It's this sharing of information, having a dialogue so that we can continuously, stay connected.
Yeah.
And that feels reassuring, especially to those that don't have power in the situation.
Yeah.
To know, like, okay, yeah, we're on track. Great. Now I can just focus on doing a really great job plating this and thinking about the next thing I got to do. I'm not wondering how it's going and not knowing, and maybe starting to worry a little bit
Filling in
about
blanks.
things being off track. And I think that also sets the stage for trust. If we've got an ongoing dialogue about how I'm doing, then I feel like I trust you to then tell me when things aren't going well, that you mean it, and that it's okay that I'm taking in this feedback and acting on it, because we have this understanding around when things do go well. And we talked a little bit last time about, information being the lifeblood of hospitality, and communication being the practice of be able to extend that understanding. And I think that entering into, when you walk into work and you have this intention to be hospitable to others, that shows up in a specific way, because you're trying to anticipate those moments that people might need information from you.
Yeah. One of my favorite little spots on Alberta, I remember the owner had come in and had sort of kind of blanket statement, like, I want, more sales. So we need, get out from behind the bar, go out into the patio, go out into the front, and go see if people want drinks. The entire culture of the restaurant was kind of like, go to the bar, order at the bar. And so it was sort of flew in the face of everything that everyone on staff was used to. And so I heard a lot of them complain when I would talk to them and complain about, well, then I've got ticket confusion, and I rang this up on somebody else's thing, and I didn't know they had a card on file, and blah, blah, blah. And so they were already kind of picking apart this strategy.
We talk a lot about having a plan, and then making sure that everyone understands what the plan is, and everyone's kind of role in that plan. And when a team is full of folks that knows exactly what their contribution needs to be, then it can be fun. And then you start to turn the dial up of volume, and the adrenaline starts to flow, and it's all in a positive direction, because you have a plan, and you just worry about your piece, and if it gets derailed, where to go for help, and the person next to you knows their spot, and it's all good.
Yeah.
I think you're right that it's all about having a plan and creating the structure to support the work. But then I think, like you brought up a minute ago with that boss that came in and was like, let's change everything. You have to go out from behind the bar. I need you to make more sales, without any explanation. Like, it doesn't matter how good your structure is. If you're trying to, what is that saying? Like, if you're trying to turn the aircraft carrier, like, midstream, it's not going to work. Like, the most structured place, like Blue Hill or the dive bar down the street, like, if you decide to hit the brakes and change direction all of a sudden, it's going to throw everything off.
Oh, yeah.
So, you have to be conscientious of that, and you have to provide the right information at the right time in the right order if you're going to change the structure and the system.
That resonates with me big time, because I think I mess up that, what do you call it? Like, it's a palomar, where you say a saying wrong, but it's like a big ship and a small rudder. But I think about that all the time. I mean, definitely at Poached, we have a big ship, and the smaller the team is, you realize how slowly you can pivot from thing to thing.
Yeah.
And I think that still translates well in a restaurant, especially with our example. What the hell happens when there's 15 people lined up at the bar and I'm not even there?
Yeah.
They're picking apart this because there's a practical implementation of any new idea, and you have to think of it from the ground up. It can't come, well, it can come top down if you're smart enough and good enough at building a system like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can start from the top down, but that's if you don't anticipate what information will be needed for the folks that you're connecting with to give this idea to. Sure. You're taking the long road. Yeah. It's all got to be worked out, and everything is going to come to the surface, and all problems will be exposed and dealt with, or it'll be scrapped. But, so you can come in with a big, bright idea, but if you're not anticipating what might need to be true for your audience or your team, you're skipping a few steps, and you're kind of, trying to push a boulder uphill.
That's like the classic chef thing where like you've been working 4 or 5 hours into your shift already, and then the chef comes in and is like, all right, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to serve this instead. And that experience can be super jarring for a line cook to just like think that they're prepping for the right thing all day, and then chef comes in and actually we're not going to serve this anymore. I have this great idea that we're going to do right now.
But I just put all this effort into my mise en place, and I was planning on my bus ride here, what I was going to do when I got here, and I came in and I like hit
psych, here's 2 cases of fava beans.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's also, if there's a personality type just can't deal with a change of plan very well, and you kind of need to be able to do that, right? Because I imagine ingredients run out, you have to pivot. Totally. As a restaurateur, you have to pivot all the time. How do you handle that? Like, what's some piece of advice to be able to?
Oftentimes you just got to roll with what's going on, but I feel like there's a level of planning on the chef's end that could probably come into play a little bit more. Like, we know when these things are available, or, we know, like, have this great idea that maybe can wait for tomorrow, so we can like plan accordingly.
Yeah.
And not like rock everybody who's in service or about to be in service right now.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to think also about either you're grounding your mindset with a hospitable intent, or you're not.
Yeah.
So either you are, you've got this big bright idea, and you're thinking about, okay, well, how am I going to go about getting this set into motion in a way that my team's going to be stoked by,
Right.
and is not going to like derail their day, or create confusion and swirl, or feel like a big pain in the ass, or like just, kind of derail our prep for service, and then everyone's working double time. So you either have that, intention, and you think through and you plan accordingly, or that's not in your mind and you're just, freestyling all the time, and you're running an environment that's not really hospitable, and that's kind of the norm there, and sometimes we see it's either one of those ways, or it's the other way.
Yeah. And the rapid change is, a lot easier to deal with if the chef's got a plan for like how, like, we're going to change this dish, but like this person's going to prep this, I'm going to prep this, sous chef's going to take care of this, or oftentimes it's like, we're going to change this dish, like figure it out.
Yeah. And I think, another thing that you mention is some folks, they're super chill with change on the fly. Some folks need to know the plan 3 days in advance and slowly get their mind set towards it, and they need to have enough time to anticipate all the little micro questions that might come up. And so as a leader, if you know who's who on your team, and you know what is going to set, person A off, or, what is going to be just fine for person B,
right,
you're anticipating their needs. You're extending hospitality as you intentionally communicate these things out accordingly. If you don't know your team, if you're not spending the time to develop that awareness of who's got what strengths and who's comfortable and competent and secure in their own skin in their role, then again you're going about it the hard way. And I think it comes down to a lot of times whether you as a leader, you as a someone that is managing the situation, if you are in the right mindset, if you are able to think ahead and be strategic and have this awareness about you, and what we say is true hospitality starts with yourself. And so if you don't have what you need to be able to approach those situations mindfully and with that intention and think about how you're impacting others, you're setting up just for an inhospitable situation for everybody else. And so what are some of the things, JR, as we're talking about this kitchen example, what are some of the things that as a sous chef or as a chef you need for yourself before you can do a great job doing this planning work?
Sleep.
Yeah.
Water, hydration.
Yeah.
Things that seem like basic things for a lot of people that aren't so basic. Bathroom breaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Sleep. I mean, sleep is a huge issue in this industry. Yeah. I mean, we work long hours. We work nocturnally sometimes. Yep. Sometimes we don't. And we also, when we get out of work and it's nighttime, our night just begins. Right. And so sleep can be the thing that we're always chasing, or we're always going to get to it at some point. And when we're not rested, we're not really sane and ready for strategic thinking or for thinking about what other people need. We're just in reaction mode the minute we wake up.
One of the things that comes to mind is hospitality is a mindset topic that we wanted to cover. One of the things I heard not one but two different employees talking about this new plan is, hey, there's going to be a line at the bar. Customers are going to be mad. Almost as if they were sort of signed up for the thing not working.
Yeah.
And then they were sort of invested in it not working. And I found it remarkable because as a friend, I'm like, fuck yeah, I understand, dude. Management doesn't know what they're talking about. But as a manager, I was like, ooh, you've already kind of decided that this isn't going to work. And so you're sort of kind of into it not working almost in a very weird way.
You're not going to sabotage it, are you?
No.
You're not going to not try, are you?
But that's where I hear that futility.
Yeah.
I hear that sort of disillusioned feeling of well, fuck. If he's going to come in here and make these random requests, I'm going to show him how bad his advice is.
Well, I think that's the problem. It sounds like that request was random, and the person making it didn't do a good enough job explaining why and conveying that they had thought about those potential problems that could occur. I think that they walked in, said what they needed to say, and then left, and the staff was left feeling like this person who doesn't work this job and is hardly ever here doesn't understand the ramifications of what they're asking for. And so, of course, they saw the worst possible scenario.
And they just dumped this on me.
Yeah, and they just dumped this on me. And so they created that story in their head that the worst possible case scenario was what was going to happen because the person who was, in charge did not adequately convey, here's what we do if there's a line at the bar and people get cranky because we've changed the system. Here's what we do if X, Y, Z. I already thought about those things because I'm a good leader and I know how this business works. They didn't do that, and so the staff was cranky about it.
Yeah. And so just to land my own, my question, is that how you would fight that sort of attitude, right? Maybe it wouldn't occur if you explained yourself very well, but does it require a conversation? Do you get rid of that person? What do you do when you've already, let's say you had a crazy idea, you were super excited about it, didn't explain it well, and the staff some of them are starting to feel a little bit like, this isn't going to work, and I'm not going to work extra to make your dumb idea work.
Well, the example that you've given sounds like a kind of a one-way monologue from that person to the team. It doesn't sound like a hospitable dialogue where someone came in with a great idea how to solve their business or their brand problem and said, hey team, what do you think?
Right.
And here's why you should be excited about it.
And like, I know I'm anticipating that this is change. So I already know change is hard and it might kind of suck to think about it. But what am I not thinking about? What am I missing here? If we were going to do this thing, what would we need to work out and what would need to be true? What do you think? And then waiting and listening. If you don't do that piece, then you're not getting buy-in.
Yeah.
You're not getting the best out of the team, because the team actually knows all the things to consider and all the problems to solve and anticipate. Yeah. If you appeal to that and engage that early on and say, I want you to be a part of this thing. I've got it halfway baked, but I'm not delivering you the mandate to do this thing. I've got it to this point where now we can work on it together. And I want to know your thoughts.
Love it. Yeah.
I think you're talking about the difference between a boss and a hospitable manager or a hospitable leader. Mm-hmm. Like, there is a difference between being a boss and being a leader. Bosses tell you that they're the boss.
And they're bossy.
And they're bossy. And leaders invite input and invite feedback and invite other people's ideas and expertise. And the people that work for you are smart.
Yeah.
They know this job better than anyone. But bosses don't see it that way. Bosses think that because they got promoted, they're the smartest ones. But like, not everybody wants to be a boss. Doesn't mean that not everybody could also be one.
Be a boss.
Yeah. So point. Like there's a big difference between being a boss and being a leader, and that sounds like a boss.
Yeah.
No one likes bosses. They're jerks.
I got to say, like my own inadequacies kind of come to mind. Is that I didn't know, because I'm a marketer at heart. It's been too long that I've been doing this job. And I understand that my job is to just basically endear people to our brand. But I had no idea how much of my job was going to be convincing my coworkers that what I thought of was a good idea.
Yeah.
I think, hey, the proof is in the pudding, right? And a manager or an owner might go, business is doing great. You know who did that? Me, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, it's kind of, it reminds me that I can't necessarily come to my team and go, look, we've been running great ads. We've been growing steady. Trust me that I have good ideas. It is a constant conversation, and it's getting feedback and going, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe we try a combination of the two. Maybe we try this week, try that next week.
Yeah. It's that. And it's also, you don't know what you're missing if you don't ask the question. You don't know what great ideas the team actually has. Mm-hmm. And people want to be a part of meaningful work, and they want to be seen and heard. Yeah. And even if your big idea had been working, you also don't know how painful it's been for the team to execute on that to make it work.
That's true.
If you're not creating this space of conversation and dialogue about where they're at and what they think. And that's a miss. So I would challenge you to kind of be curious.
Yeah.
And ask for that input as you continue as a leader. Next week, we'll spend some time exploring how we can all begin to carve out a little time for ourselves to become more intentional, more effective, and help everyone have more fun.
As always, please write in, call us, go to the morefuntomorrow.com website, and send us your stories, send us your issues that you're dealing with. We would love to hear from you, and we'd love to cover some of this stuff on the podcast. So please don't be shy. Connect with us on socials, and we'll get the conversation going.